games of the 23rd Olympiad. Brought to you by Permaflex, the newest 30-day lens from the makers of Permalens. And Arco, Atlantic Richfield Company, proud sponsors of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics.
This is a live shot from a helicopter high over the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, where in just a matter of moments now we'll be getting the closing ceremonies underway. It is a beautiful night in Los Angeles. The anticipation of the closing ceremonies, of course, very high. David Wolper put on a tremendous production for the opening ceremonies and has promised even more this evening. We'd like to remind you that 10 o'clock tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll be bringing you highlights of these games, and there have been so many over the past couple of weeks. And once again, we are about ready to get the closing ceremonies underway. Let's go now to Jim McKay. He's at the Coliseum with Peter Jennings.
Yes, there he is, Carlos Lopes of Portugal at age 37, the gold medalist in the Olympic marathon, running in only the third marathon of his life. It will be a big night in his hometown in Portugal. Peter, you've been through there.
Well, indeed, Jimmy. In fact, I was just looking the temperature guides up. He comes from that part of Portugal, which is very cold in the north at this time of the year. He certainly had no trouble with this temperature in Los Angeles.
It's the first gold medal of these games for Portugal.
Winner of the silver medal, representing Ireland, Olympic champion John Tracy.
And that is the first medal of any kind for Ireland in these games. John Tracy from Waterford County, where the crystal comes from. Juan Antonio Samaran, the president of the IOC, giving him his silver medal. That's Primo Nebbiolo, the president of the International Athletic Amateur Federation, giving him the flowers. John Tracy with a fine Irish face there.
Médaille de bronze, représentant la Grande-Bretagne.
The winner of the bronze medal, representing Great Britain, Charles Spedding.
Charles Spedding, 32 years old. He's won the last two marathons he was in, Houston and London. Now the bronze medal, Ireland and England.
There's something very moving about this on this stage, Jim. We talked at the opening ceremonies about how athletics bring people together. There is terrible violence today in Northern Ireland involving, in cases of the British troops and the Northern Ireland population. And here are the Brit and the Irishman together on the stand. That says a lot about international sport.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the
That's the kind of spirit we've had all the way through these games.
Portugal.
Mesdames, Messieurs, veuillez vous lever pour l'exécution de l'hymne national du Portugal.
Anthem of Portugal. Lopes, who won a silver medal in the 10,000 meters 8 years ago in Montreal. By the way, the three-tiered stand they stand on, you think of that as something ancient, but it isn't. It was introduced right here 52 years ago. Following what you were saying, Peter, Great Britain and Ireland have actually been living side by side in the village.
Yes. It is an absolutely beautiful evening in Los Angeles. All that heat that was so prevalent during the beginning of the marathon has now disappeared, and there's an softness that has settled on the stadium.
The Department of the Interior has recommended that this Coliseum become a National Historical Landmark. Seems only fair, the only stadium in which 2 Olympics have been held. Started construction in 1923, but was used in 1932 for the game.
Take a look at John Tracy, Jim. There's a young man who shows us he's run 26 miles and all those yards.
Yes, he does. The applause hasn't stopped for those 3 athletes, none of them American.
That's Juan Antonio Samaran you see in the middle of the crowd now talking to them.
It won't be too long until the flag will be lowered and the flame will be extinguished. But much more comes before that. Faster, higher, stronger, the motto of the Olympics. Above the Olympic rings, the 2 huge message boards, which have worked very well during these games to give the people another view.
This is a little different, isn't it, Jim, from past Olympics? In past Olympics, I obviously mentioned that the marathon is finished here for the first time, but in previous Olympics, you always had the equestrian events. We're going to see the medal presentation of the equestrian events in just a minute.
Yes,
and I gather it was because David Wolper, the producer of the opening and closing ceremonies, didn't want his field torn up.
That's what I heard. So they had the equestrian today in a wonderful place, Santa Anita Park, where all of the equestrian events have been held, except, of course, the cross-country race, which was down in Rancho Santa Fe. But they had it today, and the result was very favorable for the United States. They won the gold and silver medal. Joe Fargas won the gold. Conrad Homfeld won the silver. Heidi Robiani of Switzerland won the bronze, but it was a tremendous contest with the 2 Americans, if you didn't see that earlier today, having to go to a jump-off to decide the gold and silver between them. I will say, Peter, that John Williams' fanfare has not grown old during these games.
Ladies
Many
and
times as we've heard it.
The victory ceremonies for the equestrians' individual jumping competition will now commence.
Mesdames, Messieurs, nous allons assister maintenant à la cérémonie de remise des médailles au sport équestre, saut d'obstacles individuels.
And here they come. Horses and riders. A lovely sight. The crowd just beginning to realize that.
Swiss flag you see down there in the left-hand corner of your screen for the bronze medal winner. This crowd this evening has got up on its feet at every opportunity.
They'll have a few more opportunities.
We will also get an opportunity to see now, not for the first time during these games, but His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh.
Joe Fargas, the gold medalist from Petersburg, Virginia. His horse, Touch of Class. Joe, 36 years old, silver medalist. Conrad Homfeld and Heidi Robiani of Switzerland. The horses do not get medals.
They get rosettes, if I recall, don't they?
That's right. The 229th and final medal ceremony of these games. What a panoply of athletics we've seen here.
Another example, I think, Jim, isn't it, the equestrians, of how far the Olympics can go in making a sport popular in a country where it is not wildly popular. Certainly show jumping is well known here, but in Western Europe and Britain, you see televised show jumping almost every week.
Will be presented by the Honorary Life President of the International Olympic Committee, the Lord Callanan, accompanied by Fritz O. Widmer, Secretary General of the International Equestrian Federation.
Les médailles seront présentées par Lord Callanan, président honoraire à vie du Comité international olympique, accompagné de Fritz O. Widmer, secrétaire général de la Fédération équestre internationale.
Lord Callanan, the former president of the IOC, who is here this evening to present the equestrian medals.
He had a fascinating career, you know, as a journalist, and he produced one of my favorite movies, The Quiet Man, long ago. John Wayne, Barry Fitzgerald, I believe. Those are the lights that will be used for the production that is yet to come.
And those are the hunting pinks, which people who hunt the fox or hunt the drag wear when they're actually hunting in the field.
Oh,
Same
listen,
thing they wear.
down where I come from in Moncton, Maryland, we virtually wear them out for fun, you know, on weekdays. Not I. Figured out why they call them pinks, and they're very, very red.
Winner of the gold medal, representing the United States, Olympic champion Joe Fargus.
In all, the United States won 84 gold medals here. That's the all-time record for the record.
"36 years old, Joe Fargus, as Jim said, from Petersburg, Virginia. And his horse, quite fittingly, is called a Touch of Class."
Médaille d'argent, représentant les États-Unis.
Winner of the silver medal, representing the United States, Conrad Homefeld.
Conrad Homefeld, his horse was Abdullah. He also from Petersburg. Hotbed of riding, of course.
Médaille de bronze, représentant la Suisse.
Winner of the bronze medal, representing Switzerland, Heidi Robbiani.
She's a saleswoman, actually, from Brusata in Switzerland. And her horse's name was Jessica V, or Jessica the Fifth, perhaps.
Switzerland had no gold medals here, but 8 medals altogether. One of only 4 countries that have been in every Summer Olympic game.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the national anthem of the United States.
48th, 84th, and last time
Veuillez
at
vous
a medal
lever pour
award ceremony in
l'exécution
these
de
games.
l'hymne national des États-Unis.
Joe Fargus, Olympic champion. That concludes all of the awards in these Olympic Games. We'll be proceeding very shortly then to the closing ceremony. The equestrians making their way down, followed by Lord Killannon. And the horses standing by. The horses behaving extremely well with the light, with the noise, and the many distractions.
These are horses, of course, which spend a lot of time on the international jumping circuit. I suspect they're used to this sort of crowd now, though not this size. They're certainly accustomed to noise and having their photographs taken. One of the clearly most expensive sports in the Olympic Games. And
we had been told they might take a victory lap on the horses. That could happen yet. So, there they are, back aboard. A different type of track than most horses are accustomed to taking laps on.
It's certainly one of the most elegant of international sports. There they go on a track which President Samaran told me the other day was not fit for world records, Jim, but certainly fit for this occasion.
Only one track in the United States where thoroughbred has a base, anything like that, underneath the dirt. The Calder track in Miami. Artificial surface. The usual thousands of flash bulbs going off. Of course, they have absolutely no effect at that distance, but they make a pretty sight.
Yes, that is not an electronic technique you're looking at. No. Those are flash cameras.
That is a lovely sight, though, isn't it? The last medal winners of these games exit the stadium. But later, all of the athletes will come back in.
This Olympic Stadium now packed to overflowing as the closing ceremonies begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, in their final performance, the finest musicians from colleges and universities throughout the 50 United States, the Olympic All-American Marching Band.
Dr. Art Bartner, the conductor from USC. All right.
800 members from all 50 states. Our partner said it's going to be hard to
The
conduct
Olympic
any other band
All-American
after
Marching
this.
Band.
Can believe it.
This stadium looks even more dramatic, without question, at night than it did for the opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, a parade of flags leads the way for the entrance of the athletes of the games of the 23rd Olympiad.
Well, they're about to come in. First, the placard bearers and flag bearers. Then the great mass of athletes will come in after them.
These are the tall flag girls who became so visible and so popular at the opening ceremonies. 400 of them. They all come from Los Angeles. They're dressed differently than they were at the opening ceremonies, which suggests to us that the whole thing is going to be as different as David Wolfer, the producer, said it was going to be.
Almost 8:30 in the evening now here in Los Angeles. Now here comes the flag of Greece, just emerging from the tunnel. The tunnel out of which Carlos Lopes of Portugal not long ago came to win the marathon. The first Olympic marathon, of course.
The placard bearers are again being led by Greece.
There they are. And the other nations, as you see, the placards and the flags coming in. Flag bearers in some cases will be athletes, in other cases will be some of the volunteers who have worked so hard here in Los Angeles.
But there's an important break here with Olympic tradition. Usually only 6 or 8 athletes are allowed to march in the closing ceremonies, and the Los Angeles Olympic Committee suggested to the IOC that any athlete that wanted to come could come. And there are, I think, about 6,000 left in town. Some had to leave, but they'll all be given a chance.
Well, we remember so well, Peter, in Mexico City in 1968, the first time they said only 6 athletes could come in, and all the others were seated in the grandstand, in the end zone, so to speak. And somebody got the idea of jumping the fence and going on the field, and soon all of the athletes were swarming on the field, dancing with each other to the sound of the marimbas. So they'll have that opportunity tonight, but this time they've been invited to come in. Burma, you saw go by, had only one competitor, boxer Zol Lat, lost in the first round, but they took part.
Canada had a very good games here, didn't they, Jim? But
Yes, they did,
10
indeed.
gold medals, am I correct?
Marvelous in swimming. Costa Rica, country you were telling us last time, is without an army by design. There's the Canadian flag. Equatorial Guinea, there they are.
Make it sound like they're my favorite country. And the People's Republic of China. They got about 8 hours a day of television of the games in China, and finally, on the island of Taiwan, under public pressure, the Taiwanese television began to show the gold medal winners in China. They hadn't done it for much of the games.
Very interesting. Chinese won 15 gold medals here, 33 medals overall in their first full appearance in the Summer Olympics. They had one athlete in 1952. That's why we have to qualify them. Well, the Irish can be proud. They won their first medal tonight in the last event in the marathon, a silver win by John Tracy. Sebastian Coe carrying the Union Jack. He let some of the more bitter British press have it the other night. Who had
At the finish of the 1,500 meters, it was his first reaction was to turn to the British press and let them know that all of the unkind things they'd said about him over the years, he could have it back. He is one of those who won the 1,500 meter for the second straight Olympics, and the first man ever to do so.
Korea. His country will be the host for the next Summer Olympic Games in 1988. A tremendous Korean community. They call it Koreatown here in Los Angeles.
About 200,000, I think, is the gym in the Los Angeles area. And in early September, President Samaran, president of the IOC, will go to Korea and dedicate the new stadiums. There'll be a lot of political problems with Korea, perhaps 4 years from now, but at the moment, there they are celebrating.
The man carrying their flag was Hyung Soo-hai, gold medalist in judo. Flags of 140 nations. There's Bert Cameron of Jamaica, who had such tough luck. Remember, he ran through his first heat, had a cramp on the backstretch, somehow managed to run through it and qualify, but he couldn't quite do it. It still hurt in the final. A great athlete. Jamaica won a silver and 2 bronzes here. Portugal, who won the marathon tonight. That's Rosa Mota, a medalist in the first women's marathon in Olympic history. She won a bronze medal. Down to the S's so soon. The United States. Solomon Islands and Singapore, Somalia. And now the American flag.
It's a good, healthy reminder, isn't it, Jim, of how far afield people have come from for these games. Some of them wouldn't have been here had it not been for the International Olympic Committee, for the first time, paying the way of some small nations,
in the true spirit of sportsmanship,
which were not able to come.
The teams enter as one.
The American flag, and here come the athletes. Together, carrying the American flag, Jeff Blatnick, the man in Greco-Roman wrestling who overcame cancer to be here and then won the gold medal. You remember his justly emotional reaction afterwards. The American athletes will begin a tour of several cities tomorrow. They're going to be flown around the country. The ticker tape parade up Broadway on Wednesday in New York. But they'll be flying into Washington, flying into Dulles Airport tomorrow evening. And they're going to go to Congress on Tuesday.
All right, they're going to finish up in Dallas on Saturday on the eve of the Republican convention.
That's right. Also going to go to Disney World on their way.
This is what it is all meant to be about.
Yep. more nations than there are in the United Nations.
The 21 team captains, by the way, from the U.S. delegation selected Jeff Blatnick to carry this flag.
American girl and a man in one of the white robes of an African nation there, holding hands high together.
There she is.
Yep, Mary Lou.
She even got her Corvette. The first American to win a gold medal in gymnastics, including the gold in the women's all-round competition.
The traditional queen of world gymnastics is the winner of the all-around. That's what she did. Pretty proud down in Fairmont, West Virginia right now. Who do we have here? I can't... Sure.
Tracy.
John Tracy, yep. There's Jeff Blatnick, 27 years old. Gave the gold to his father to hold after he got it. You remember the father's hands trembling as he did. And he put it around Jeff's neck again and hugged him. And soon, more of the ceremonies will proceed. We're going to have a word from our local stations first. It's going to take a few more minutes for the athletes to march in. 6,000 of them out of the 7,800 or so who were here originally are still left in town. We've seen a great many wonderful moments and moving moments in the Winter Olympics and now in the Summer Olympics this year. Why don't we take a couple of minutes to review them, to recall the moments that were.
Coliseum, built 61 years ago, now filling up with athletes from all over the world. These athletes marched together because back in 1956, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, adopted a suggestion from a 17-year-old Chinese boy to let the athletes march together as a symbol of world unity. Daley Thompson.
Daley Thompson.
King of the athletes.
Yep. Idol of Britain this weekend, you can be sure.
Thanks, LA, it says. See you in Seoul.
Very personable man. And he says he'll be back in 88.
If that's the sign, I guess he intends to be. He missed
Rowdy
the world
Gaines.
record.
Excuse me, Peter, but Rowdy Gaines in the middle there. Missed his chance in 1980, stayed in training for 4 more years. Was the oldest man in the United States swimming team, and when he won that gold, he let everybody know how happy he was. All this and the ceremony itself hasn't really started yet, technically. Coming up.
You know, Jim, you asked a little earlier about impressions. Because so many American athletes, because the American athletes didn't go to Moscow and they've committed to the 8 years, they're older, better developed, wiser, and it says something in some respects about the training programs in this country, because after college up until now, you didn't get much help beyond. And this 8 years, I hope, will show some people that continuing to support athletes beyond college level is going to make them the kind of world class we've seen.
Agreed. Donna Deverona is down there with the young man we spoke of earlier who carried the flag in tonight, Jeff Blatnick. All right, Donna.
Jeff, it's been so exciting. Put this in perspective for us. What does this moment mean to you with all the athletes walking in together?
This is really great. I didn't at all mind that the athletes just came pouring in the way they did. It was absolute mayhem back there. Everybody's really, really happy. After 1980, for me, this is just one joyous occasion.
Most people, and we do have to do this, we focus in on the gold medals and the silver medals and the drama behind the scenes. For you, what was the most important drama during these games?
Oh, I tell you, just getting that second chance and being able to pull through. We've never had a medal, and we had 4. Steve Fraser, myself, Greg Gibson, and Jim Martinez. And we're part of a record-setting team, and I'm really glad to be part of it. Wrestling's coming a long way.
What do you think this Olympic showcase has done for wrestling? It's a sport that usually doesn't get that much exposure.
Well, we've gotten some media, and we've gotten some winners, and I sure hope now we get some more athletes into it. It's nothing to be afraid of. Greco's really, really good, and it's given me everything in my life, and I'm psyched.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Now back to you, Tim McKay.
Jeff Blatnick, the young man who overcame cancer to be in these Olympics, not only to be here, but to win a gold medal. The people sometimes look snidely at you when you say the Olympics can be an inspiration. They simply can, and in so many ways.
Jürgen Hinkson, who had the great competition with Daley Thompson of Great Britain for the decathlon, and who is as popular in his own country as Daley Thompson is in Great Britain.
Now Donna with another great world-class athlete, Edwin Moses.
Edwin just came off the field to talk to us. It's only appropriate, Edwin, that since you opened the games, you were the official athlete to do that, chosen by the International Olympic Committee, that you should give us a closing comment about this moment.
It's great right now. Everyone is trading uniforms and hats and pins, and I just feel like a citizen of the universe right now.
And what's the future for, you feel, the Olympic movement in this country and worldwide?
Well, we'd like to get more support for the athletes between the Olympic Games. The corporations have been doing us just a marvelous deed to help us out between the games, and we're looking forward to the same in 88 and hopefully more gold in 88.
And where did you get this?
I got this one from a gentleman from Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you.
What he didn't tell you is he also got his jacket as well. That was a jacket from the Moroccan team as well. The fez, or tarbouche, as that hat is called.
Morocco had only won 1 medal in the history of the Olympics until this time, and this time they won 2 gold medals. Edwin Moses, I think, expressed the feeling down there very well. Donna's really moving around. She has Cheryl Miller from the basketball team now.
That's right. The athletes are making their second round around the track. I see Mary Lou Retton here, but here's a gold medalist, the first ever for the United States in women's basketball. Why do you think you played so well? I know all 12 of you were on women's scholarships, but what was that magic?
I think just from being in Los Angeles, it's in the United States, and we wanted to show the people that women can play as well as men.
And where are you going next, Cheryl?
I have 2 more years at USC and hopefully 2 national titles and maybe the '88 Olympics. We'll have to see.
It's got to be something to be playing in your hometown, walking into this Coliseum. I'm sure you go to a lot of the football games. Congratulations. Back to you, Jim.
All right, Donna, thank you very much. You know, I know it's about 10 minutes to midnight back east, but I think I can say this. If you go to bed now, somebody's going to be telling you tomorrow what's going to happen from here on, what happened when they stayed up, and you'll be sorry. This thing is just beginning. The ceremony itself will be underway. There's going to be entertainment. I think we can reveal there are going to be fireworks, fabulous fireworks.
I know one 4.5-year-old is still up, Jim.
There you get the wide shot of how the field has filled up with these athletes. Great stage in the middle awaiting the entertainment. And now Donna's down there with Jürgen Hingsen.
This is an international arena, and we must have athletes from other countries. I have with me Jürgen Hingsen, the world record holder in the decathlon. Jürgen, it's all over. You did win the silver, and it was a very competitive event. What about this moment here? What about these Olympics? How do you feel?
I feel really great. I mean, it's been a spectacular moment for me. It's the first Olympic Games. 1980 I couldn't go, and so I'm really pleased with the crowd. It's the best publicum in the world that I've seen so far. The best games, and organization was perfect, and it's just, what can I say? It's a beautiful moment for me.
Thank you, Jürgen.
Don, it's as good a time as any to pick up on what Jürgen said. Juan Antonio Samaran gave these games a 10, and it gives us a chance to say, not I hope for the last time, that there were 50, 70,000 volunteers who helped the Los Angeles Olympic Committee, and I think everybody who's come here from overseas that I've managed to talk to this weekend feels, as people I gather have throughout the 2 weeks, that without the volunteers, these games would have not been what they are. So to all of them, a salute. They have been absolutely extraordinary. They have worked without, obviously, as volunteers, without any funds or any fees, and they have had the most glorious time. The flag of Australia, the Great Southern Cross.
Terry Schroeder of the United States. He's the man who posed for the huge statue, remember, Peter, outside the Coliseum. You know, a lot of people asked me before I came here, will these be the last Olympics? I think we have the answer now.
It's interesting that I think 5 countries, Jim, have already applied for the Summer Games in 1992, or want it very badly anyway.
And the word is that perhaps 1996 will be Athens, the 100th anniversary of the Olympic Games, and the Chinese have indicated interest in the year 2000. So I think the Olympics are assured for a while. The faces of the world. The citizens of America. Athletes don't seem to want to let this moment go.
And there is absolutely no reason why they should, as various small groups break away and run their flags around the stadium.
Things are beginning to quiet down just a little bit. Peter, you mentioned the volunteers, the many of them. Donna's with one of them right now.
That's right. There's about 40,000 volunteers, and Pauline Green has been picked as the representative to speak for him. Pauline, tell me about why you decided to volunteer and what has it meant this last few months?
Well, I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching about the Olympics for the last 2 years, and I thought I had to be part of history and be a part of it.
As a teacher, what has this Olympics brought to your school? You have Roosevelt Elementary School, 6th grade teacher. What has the Olympics meant to these kids?
Well, we have our own little mini Olympics, and they enjoy getting the excitement of being an athlete.
And how about you?
I love it. I'm very competitive, and I love the competitive spirit.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
And there, the flag of Greece, the flags of many nations being run around informally by
Would
some
the
of their
athletes
athletes.
please return to the center of the field? Please return to the infield.
That sounds like school days. Will you please get back in the classroom?
I wish him luck.
We'll be back, we promise.
Leave the track and
Marine Sergeant Greg Gibson, he won a silver medal in wrestling. We're going to hear the anthems of Greece, the United States, and Korea, the host for the next Olympics.
This is Greece, Ethnikos Hymnos. The short version of Ethnikos Hymnos. It's actually the longest national anthem in the world. It has 158 stanzas if you sang or played the whole thing.
The wrestlers.
Magnificently played by this Olympic All-American marching band. There's a real note of pathos about this Korean national anthem. It was written in 1920 when Korea was occupied by the Japanese. Kuka. Until the East Sea's waves are dry, guarded by her people, ever may Korea stand.
Host of the 1988 games, Greece, of course, because she was host to the ancient games, and the United States this time. Now we're going to have the exchange of the Antwerp flag.
For the traditional ceremony of flags, the president of the International
Juan Antonio
Olympic Committee,
Samaran, followed by
His
Mayor Tom
Excellency,
Bradley of Los
Mr.
Angeles.
Juan Antonio Samaran. accompanied by the Mayor of Los Angeles, the Honorable Tom Bradley.
Tom Bradley will be
Mayor of
passing
Seoul,
the flag
Korea,
across to the Mayor of Seoul.
the Honorable Bo Hyun-young.
This is the first time that the Antwerp flag ceremony, as you mentioned earlier, Peter, has been done at the closing. Usually it's done at the next games.
It's rather sad in one small respect. It means Los Angeles is not going to have the Antwerp flag for very long. Let's go down to Donna Di Verona quickly. Donna?
Donna, you there?
Thank you, Jim. I am with what everybody describes as in the Olympics as the best all-around athletes. Daly, are you relieved? How do you feel about this? A lot of athletes come to the Olympics with expectations, and you did, and they're relieved afterwards.
Oh yeah, of course you are, because I mean there's lots of pressure and you have your own kind of expectations to overcome, and I was very fortunate and everything went well. But apart from that, I've had a really good time and I've really enjoyed the Olympics this time, whereas other Olympics haven't been quite as nice to me.
Okay, we certainly have enjoyed you, and congratulations.
Thanks very much, Anna.
Back to you, Jim.
Young man who was raised in a school for troubled children. There's Mayor Tom Bradley, who once ran on this track, Peter.
Yes, he's not the one who was raised in a school for troubled
No.
children.
That was Daley Thompson. Now we hear Ode to Joy again, which we heard on our piece a little earlier.
Juan Antonio Samaran, the president of the IOC, widely regarded as a very good president. And what you're looking at now is the Seoul City Dance Theater, which is going to join the mayor of Seoul, Korea. Seoul, by the way, means capital in Korea. That's Bo Hyun-young. And they are being joined now in the center of the field by both the Seoul City Dance Theater and the Dance Theater of Harlem.
There'll be an exchange of gifts between the children of Korea and the children of the United States
and
also.
Terry Usher, General Manager of the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, Mayor Tom Bradley, Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, will pass the Antwerp flag to His Excellency, Mr. Juan Antonio Samaran, President of the International Olympic
That's Harry
Committee.
Usher giving it to Paul Zifrin, to Tom Bradley.
Just a reminder, this is the original Olympic flag.
Mr. Samaran presents the flag to the Mayor of Seoul, Korea, Mayor Bo Hyun-young, who is accompanied by Mr.
This
Moon
flag
Han-bae, Director General, Olympic Planning Bureau of Seoul, Korea.
This flag was first raised at the Antwerp Games in 1920, and since that Olympiad, this very same flag has been passed on to the host city during every opening ceremony until today.
Tokens of past friendship and continuing goodwill.
Now the exchange of gifts between the kids from the United States and the kids from Korea. We're told that during their rehearsals for this, they got to be such good friends that they all asked to go to Disneyland together tomorrow, and they're going to do it.
The American children have given them silver Olympic coins, and the Korean children gave their American counterparts traditional Korean jewelry boxes.
There are, of course, political problems to be straightened out before those games, Peter. Lack of recognition.
Well, President Samaran is going to go to the Soviet Union very shortly to start talking. In fact, he's going to go next month to start talking about the Seoul Games,
create an international
because none
landmark.
of the Soviet bloc countries
Universal
currently have
as the
diplomatic
Games
relations with the
themselves.
Republic of Korea.
First, our guests from Korea.
Even Yugoslavia
The
does.
members of the Seoul City Dance Theater will perform the traditional Korean folk dance, the Pucher Chung.
Interesting when he said Seoul City. That's not Seoul City as in breakdancing or something. It's the city of soul dancers. Carol Lewis, sister of Carl. luck ran out in the preliminaries.
There's the mascot of the Korean Games. The Korean Tiger, Hodori.
Don't know whether he's met Sam the Eagle yet, but he probably will before this is done. Next will come the performance by the Dance Theater of Harlem for the United States.
From the United States, the Dance Theater of Harlem performs the finale of George Balanchine's Stars and Stripes Ballet.
Terry Schroeder giving a girl a ride.
George Balanchine's Stars and Stripes Ballet. You know, there is a wonderful story to this ballet. Truth, it was founded in 1968 when Arthur Mitchell, the first black dancer to become a permanent member of a major classical ballet company, became determined to help minorities. He was so distraught when Martin Luther King was assassinated that he went up to Harlem in the 60s, in the late 60s, and he started this company. It is now world famous. We will be back as we look at Steve Lindquist to join the rest of these extraordinary ceremonies in a minute.
Rowdy Gaines still living it up. That smile, a gold medal smile after long years of waiting. I think very shortly we're going to hear quite an ovation here because they're going to introduce the president of the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, your appreciation
he has done the job,
please,
and he deserves it.
Theater of Harlem and our guests, the members of the Soul City Dance
Peter Uberoth started this account for this Olympic Committee with a symbolic $100 out of his own pocket. There were a lot of naysayers all along the way. Beautiful girl there.
Exquisite contrast there, Jim, between a modern American ballet company and a 15th century folk dance.
Well, the traffic problems everyone had predicted didn't come. The smog stayed away. The games were organized just about as well as they could be. There's someone you're familiar with. There's Peter Uberoff, soon to become the commissioner of baseball. From one hot seat to another. 47 years old. Captain of the water polo team in college.
He's done something here, of course, that could not be done in a lot of
President
countries.
of the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, Mr. Peter V. Uberoff.
They're all on their feet. He has suffered the slings and arrows, that's for sure, along the way. But he pulled it off. With the help of 40,000. Go ahead.
I was going to say, more to the point, he made some money, Jim. There's 25 million, as much as $25 million, which will go to Olympic sport.
To all you Olympians who have participated here, please accept our gratitude and our heartfelt thanks. At opening ceremonies, we said you were the finest group of athletes ever assembled in the world, and you proved that to be true before the eyes of the world. More people around the world watched your efforts and struggles than any event in the history of mankind. On behalf of all of Southern California, staff, volunteers, law enforcement officers, government employees who have devoted themselves to these Olympic Games, we say thank you. On behalf of the millions of Americans who stood by at the roadsides to watch the Olympic torch go by, and on behalf of a world record number of the finest and most gracious sports fans from around the world who watch these games in person, thank you. To all you athletes, our hope for the future is that all of you who have competed here will maintain all your new friendships. And as your true victory lap of these Olympic Games, that you will go forth as ambassadors of peace and goodwill. If we have somehow brought this world a little bit closer, then we have indeed successfully staged an Olympic Games. And in a small way, perhaps, we have secured a better future for all the children of the world. It is now my pleasure to introduce the President of the International Olympic Committee, Juan Antonio Samaran.
Of Samaran's many accomplishments, he fought hard to get Jim Thorpe's medals returned.
In the name of the International Olympic Committee, I should like to extend our deepest gratitude to President Ronald Reagan, the people of the United States of America, the state of California, the friendly city of Los Angeles, and especially to its mayor, Tom Bradley. May I express our greatest appreciation to the tens of thousands of volunteers whose contribution has permitted the perfect staging of these games.
Just a reminder that on a scale of 1 to 10, he gave these games a 10.
Our most special thanks go to the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, chaired by Paul Sifrin and presided by Peter Uberov.
That's his wife.
Their constant efforts, dedication, and wisdom have enabled all of us to experience 16 wonderful days of sport, peace, and friendship under the Olympic flame. We also extend our thanks to the 23 international Olympic sports federations and the 140 national Olympic committees for their unfailing support in the Los Angeles Games. We thank all the sports officials, the members of the mass media, the enthusiastic spectators, and most of all, you, the athletes, who have been competed here against each other with pride and brotherhood for the glory of sport. On behalf of the International Olympic Committee, I am very honored to present to President Uberov the Olympic Order in Gold as an expression of gratitude of the entire Olympic movement.
The 5 rings in gold, the Olympic Order of Gold, the highest tribute this sometimes very political organization can pay to someone who they believe has made a really profound contribution.
I now declare the games of the 23rd Olympiad in Los Angeles closed.
I don't think he believes it either.
With our tradition, I call upon the youth of the world to assemble in 4 years from now in Seoul, Republic of Korea, in order to celebrate with us the games of the 24th Olympiad.
Mr. Samaran has officially closed the game, but believe me, Henry Winkler, isn't it?
It is.
Believe me, the most moving part of these ceremonies are yet to come.
Thank you. Thank you, America. Thank you.
And I must tell you, Jim, I think he means it. I think he has been profoundly moved by the success of these games. We began them with all sorts of commentary on the Olympic movement in trouble. It is still not blessed with enormous health, but he feels this has been a very big shot in the arm.
The Olympic flag will be lowered shortly. The Olympic flag will be lowered and taken away, not by famous athletes this time, but by ordinary citizens of Los Angeles, symbolizing the 40,000 volunteers who have made these games what they've been. The Olympic hymn of Spiro Samara. What a glorious sight. Wow. And those again are just ordinary flashbulbs, but now. Oof. We'll be hearing a lot of that sound when fireworks come later. Solitary trumpeters It must be 100 feet above the floor of the Coliseum. All of the spectators were given little flashlights when they come in tonight. They're glowing in the dark. In red, in white, in blue. Music is the Olympian, composed by Philip Glass. The last movement.
Creatures of a day, man is merely a shadowed dream. But when God-given glory comes upon him in victory, a bright light shines upon us, and our life is sweet. When the end comes, the loss of flame brings darkness. But his glory is bright forever.
That was the voice of
so
actor.
bright, so brief. The games are over. Now the memories begin.
Beautiful voice of actor Richard Basehart from the poetry of the Greek poet Pindar.
Ladies and gentlemen, the formal ceremonies are now over.
The flame
but
is out.
The celebration and the fun are about to begin.
Now comes the show. The flame has been
We
extinguished.
invite the athletes to be comfortable and be seated, and please remain on the field. To start off the celebration, we want tonight's audience to participate in making this magic begin. So if you haven't already, please take the flashlights out of the plastic bag and prepare them to light on the color of blue. Is everybody ready?
Flashlights will go red, white, or blue. There they go.
Put your
They've done it already.
One, two, three. Flashlights on.
Reminiscent of the card trick, Peter, at the opening. 100,000 flashlights. Thus spake Zarathustra. Music of Richard Strauss, remembered well from the movie 2001, of course. Something's going to happen here now. Here comes the spaceship. You believe this? Now, most of the crowd just beginning to see it now. Oh, it's several hundred feet high still. Shining its light, finding this strange sight on the small planet it has discovered, huh? eerie, isn't it? It was designed by a man named Bob Gurr.
Earth signals back from the center of the field. Earth signals back.
He's still at about 1,000 feet. Trumpets and the lights signaling to the spaceship giving its return signal. Friend or foe? There's the signal from Earth. Made contact now. Looks like it's going to be all right. Will they land? Spaceship weighs 2 tons. Powered by jet fuel.
I don't believe it. Really.
Glad you came back?
Oh, absolutely. Magnificent.
And the blue flashlights still glow in the arena.
Only in Southern California.
Could such a thing happen? Now, the glow from behind the arena. Spaceship has actually landed. Will they send a messenger? The full moon over Los Angeles. That's the real one. Look at this. Smoke from the spaceship behind the Coliseum. And now the laser show. From the left side of the peristyle as we look at it. I said, that's the real moon. Only the spaceship has been created. And now,
methinks we have a visitor.
The alien himself. That is no one on stilts. That is a man 7 feet 8 inches tall.
Possibilities of human achievement. For almost 100 years, you have celebrated the best that humanity has to offer. You call it the Olympic Games. And for that, and for the cities which have kept the Olympic ideal alive, I salute you.
Just as suddenly, he's gone. And the fireworks begin. Fireworks here for the United States, Australia, China, and Japan. The Japanese display we'll be seeing, they say, costs $500,000.
We honor the site of the first Olympiad in 1896, Athens, Greece, where the race for the gold began.
There'll be a salute, a fireworks display for each of the cities where the Olympic Games have been held. Tommy Walker, the man who put all this show together under David Wolper, says, I hope they can see them in San Francisco. Maybe they will tonight. Next should be Paris.
Host to the 2nd and 8th Olympiads, the City of Light, Paris, France.
That was 1900.
the first American city to host the games, the site of the third Olympiad and home of the Blues, St. Louis, Missouri.
1904. Part of a great world exposition, the games at that time. A total of 3,000 shells exploded before this display is over.
Oh, it's a welcome breather, if only for a second, because we have many cities to go. And actually
competed in the games for the first time in 1908 at the fourth Olympiad, London, England.
That was when the marathon was run for the first time at 26 miles, 385 yards, because Queen Victoria wanted her grandchildren to see the start from Windsor Castle. So they did, and that was the distance that's been so ever since. So they're going to continue through all the Olympic cities. Salute to each of them. And we'll be back. Much more to come.
This is the celebration for Antwerp in Belgium, the birthplace of the Olympic flag in 1920, which we saw her earlier this evening.
The United States team stayed on an ocean liner down in the harbor for those games. Now they're going to skip 1924 when they came back to Paris again. They've had their salute. They move to Holland. Women competed in track and field for the first time in Amsterdam.
In 1928, the city of windmills and tulips hosted the 9th Olympiad, Amsterdam, Holland.
The strange thing about all this, Jim, excuse me, is that this is still somewhat of a prelude to what is coming. We're still going to hear Lionel Richie tonight, and the actual fireworks are in 2 phases. We are going to see some fireworks tonight which have never been seen in this country before. It was actually the Chinese who originated fireworks, as I think a lot of us know now. It has become fireworks Olympiads, something of a fashionable international affair now. On the 4th of July, there was one this year, which some of you may have seen on Nightline. The Chinese are also responsible for the high-tech advances in fireworks, but the people who really like to show off these days, as the current American authority on fireworks, George Plimpton tells us, are the Japanese.
I don't know anybody who doesn't like fireworks. Something about your childhood there, isn't there? Sitting on a hillside on the 4th of July and watching fireworks and eating an ice cream cone is about as good as it gets, to tell you the truth.
A living flame from Olympia was used to light the Olympic torch for the first time in 1936 in Berlin, Germany.
Yes, that was when the torch relay was first inaugurated. The games of Jesse Owens, in the end, not Adolf Hitler. Then came World War II, of course, and then they'll skip London,
Remembered
48.
for the incredible accomplishments of Emil Zatopek, the 15th Olympiad in Helsinki, Finland.
We've talked a lot about Finland at these games, in part because people in the Soviet Union, in some parts at least, have been able to watch these games on Finnish television. And so Finnish television is as popular as it has ever been. Emil Zatopek, actually, they wanted to come here today to be honored along with all of the other marathon medal winners. But because of the Soviet boycott, of course, he didn't come. Emil Zatopek of Czechoslovakia. He probably would have wanted to participate. He's been an outspoken critic of the Czech regime. He would have liked this evening.
Finland that year, the flame was carried in by the great Paavo Nurmi. It was a great surprise to everyone and one of the emotional moments of Olympic opening ceremonies. I do believe we're going down under now.
Most of us will recognize
In the Southern Hemisphere for the first time, the 16th Olympiad in Melbourne, Australia.
Waltzing Matilda.
Next came the Eternal City. Peristyle still glows in a darkened stadium. Only the flashlights of the spectators still blue.
Against the backdrop of ancient splendor, Rafer Johnson set new records in 1960 in Rome, Italy.
Rafer Johnson, who lighted the flame for these games.
We only found out later he had a broken finger while he was carrying the flame. Carried on, did Rafer. The Rome Games. Donna De Verona was the youngest person on the American team. then they went to the Far East.
Where Abibi Bikila became the first and only man to win the marathon twice. The 18th Olympiad in Tokyo, Japan.
Well, I'm not sure I should do it, James, but I've been very impressed with this stadium announcer all week. That's the first mistake I've heard him make. Am I right? Abibi Bikila was not the only man to win the marathon twice, but
that's
Vladimir
right.
Cherpinsky won in Montreal and Moscow.
Waldemar Cherpinsky did indeed beat Frank Shorter in Montreal and went on to win 4 years ago in Moscow. A young man from East Germany who, again, was unable to come this time. He would have been here to try to make it 3 in a row were it not for the boycott.
Nonetheless, whoever that stadium announcer is, he's been wonderful.
Finally got him, huh?
Sportsmanship prevailed and friendship abounded, where Bob Beamon leaped to Olympic immortality. The games of the 19th Olympiad, Mexico City, Mexico.
Those were games in troubled times. The Russians had just invaded Czechoslovakia. People were killed in the streets of Mexico City before the games, but in the end, despite political things during the games, Black Power demonstrations, it was a very warm feeling. That was where the athletes swarmed the playing field at the end. Granada.
The Mexican team here in Los Angeles has had as good a welcome as anybody, and many of the athletes have walked around the Hispanic neighborhoods in Los Angeles to show the kids what an Olympic athlete looks like. It's been very moving.
They may have gone home a few pounds heavier when they came, in fact. They were certainly wined and dined. Mexico won both golds in the walking event. An event in which they were inspired by Jose Pedraza in 1968 when he won the 20K.
Dominated by American Mark Spitz and Soviet Olga Korbut, the Games of Munich 1972 are also remembered for their pain and sorrow.
Fireworks continuing. We're going to be here tomorrow night, of course, with our final program from Los Angeles, 10 o'clock Eastern Time and Pacific Time. And we'll be bringing up the memories one more time, seeing some of the great performances and the moving things that happened here in California. I hope you'll be with us. Then we went to Canada.
This is actually music from the ballet at the closing ceremonies in Montreal.
Displayed perfection in the games of the 21st Olympiad. Montreal, Canada.
I love that music.
Some of the best music ever.
Composed by André Mathieu, who died at a very young age and wrote some of the music that was used during those games when he was 8 years old. Next, the games America didn't attend.
"36 world records were set during the games of the 22nd Olympiad. Moscow, the Soviet Union.
Of course, one city remains.
The city where the flame has just burned so brightly. The city of the angels and hometown, Los Angeles, California, USA.
And if that isn't the biggest fireworks display you've ever seen, I don't know what might have been. They're still sitting in the dark here in the stadium, and they're awaiting, really, the wonderful Auf Wiedersehen to the athletes, the salute to them. Lionel Richie, some wonderful music, and much more.
And now to give voice to what we all feel about the athletes, Mr. Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie, staged and directed by Joe Layton.
Hello to you all, these many of you. Come and join me in a special cheer to these friends we hold so dear. Listen while I play on, play on, play on. They captured all our hearts, they captured the world. We saw the face of brotherhood on every boy and girl. We are so lucky to know them, to feel them, to share them. It's time now to let them know how much we love them, want them, need them forever. So hard to let them go. I know I speak on behalf of all the people of America and the world when I say how proud we are for these fine 2 weeks that these wonderful people have given us tonight. For their dedication, for their love, for their care, for their hard work, and for their patriotism. We want to take this opportunity now to say thank you. But there's one more thing we're going to ask you to do before you leave here tonight. One more thing we're going to ask you to do. And I hope you're ready. Let the music play on. Yeah. Woo. Well, my friends, the time has come to raise the roof and to have some fun. Throw away the work to be done. Let the music play on, play on, play on, play on. Everybody sing and everybody dance. Lose yourself in wild romance. We're going to party, caramba, fiesta, forever. Come on and sing along. We're going to party, caramba, fiesta, forever. Come on and sing my song all night long. All night long. Yeah, all night long. All night long. Woo! People dancing all in the street, seeing the morning there.
Kids coming in are called poppers in breakdancing. Some of these kids have never been inside the Coliseum before. I was talking to Lionel before, and he said they were pretty nervous.
Come on and sing along. We're going to party, life, fiesta, forever. Come on and sing my song all night long. All night long. Yes, all night long. Oh yeah, all night long. Woo! Come on. Once you get started, you can't sit down. Woo!
Break dancers, you're going to see 200 of them, and all are from different breakdancing groups. The folk dance that came from the streets here in Los Angeles. Started in the streets of New York, of course.
Yeah, jumbo, jumbo, way to party, oh, we go. Whoa, jambalaya, jambalaya, testimonia. Yeah, jumbo, jumbo. Woo. Oh, yeah. We're gonna have a party, yeah. All night long. All night long. Yes, all night long. Oh, yeah, all night long.
You know, the poppers, I'm told, they're the ones that stand and do the angular movement.
They're jamming in the streets all night long.
Here, the breakdance.
I said, everyone you meet, they're jamming in the streets all night long. Come on now. Feel good, feel good. Woo. Come on. Yeah. Go, 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 go. Yeah. Woo. Oh, yeah. Watch that. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Good, 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 good. One more time. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Everybody, feel good, feel good. Woo. Come on. Yeah. Say, 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 say. Come on. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. Come on, everybody. Woo. Say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah.
Beginning to get infectious. There are some of the guides on the hostess starting. And there he goes. The athletes begin.
Ah, yes. Bhutan.
They don't dance like that in Bhutan, I'll tell you.
He may have traded that jacket. There's the real break stuff. Windmills. Oh, look at that. Whew. Looked like the Thomas Flair he was doing there. How do you do that?
now the grand aerial salute to all the participants in the games of the 23rd Olympiad.
More fireworks, this time just 4 minutes of fireworks, we're told. Tell you, that's a crescendo. Woo. I like that. Now we're going to go from that spectacle to the most nostalgic song of all, I think. Until we meet again, for Auld Lang Syne.
You have shared in one of the most inspiring events in the history of human endeavor. A moment to be remembered. From the people of the United States, we bid farewell to the athletes of the world and to the millions who have shared their dreams. until we meet again for the games of the 24th Olympiad, may we live in peace and harmony. See you in Seoul in 1988.
Davis Finney and Connie Carpenter, his wife, you saw there. There go the balloons. You remember when the parachutes and balloons went up at the opening ceremonies? One of them, last Saturday, unbelievably, was found on a beach in Crescent Beach, South Carolina, by a little girl, 14 years old, named Janice Brittle. She said she'd found lots of things on the beach, including a quarter, I think, but she never thought she'd find anything like this. That's the women's volleyball team. There they are, silver medalists. Rita Crockett on the right there. In the middle, that's Rita Crockett. Little Debbie Green on the right, yeah. So it begins to wind down.
Jim, you know, as we go on in the final moments and watch these athletes, there's one thought I'd like to leave, and it comes not from us, but from an overseas newspaper. Watching us for these last 2 weeks, Americans particularly, a writer in a British newspaper said, what we really find difficult to accept is that Americans, year in and year out, express their patriotism without any very obvious sense of guilt. They do go in for that sort of thing, hand on heart, and perhaps we envy them that innocence. It's been a terrific 2 weeks.
And I would say, too, Peter, that if someone would draw the moral from these 2 weeks that Americans are somehow born athletically superior to the rest of the world, or that we're number one, I think they'd be drawing the wrong moral. What we've seen has been the glory, really, of individual human achievement. Individual human beings from the United States, sure, and they were glorious. But from the Ivory Coast, too, and from England, from France, from all around the world. And we've seen a demonstration of what we all wish could be the brotherhood of man.
Remember Baron Pierre de Coubertin's Olympic creed. The most important thing is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not to triumph, but to struggle.
And speaking of individual human achievements, we're now going to show you the names of the people who have worked with us here. Rune Arledge at the controls, in the control room, guiding me through it all the time and controlling the entire operation by hand. Chet Forty did the late night show. Chuck Howard was at the opening in the track and field. Dennis Lewin did all the daytime. Had to get up at 4 a.m., I think. Jeff Ruy was a tower of strength. Roger Goodman, what do you say about him? Roger did it all. Our director in the control room. Designer of our whole production. Carol Lediaz in Sarajevo. Marvelous. Peter Diamond drawing together all the elements. Marvin Bader, Mr. Olympics, really, as far as ABC is concerned. It's his job, 24 hours a day, all year. All the venue producers and directors. These are the men we work with every week through the year, too. All ABC sports events. And some who have come here from foreign lands to help us out.
On behalf of the producer and director of the opening and closing ceremonies, David L. Wolper and Tommy Walker, the entire ceremony staff and your announcer, Charles Corson, we thank the athletes, the audience, and the visitors to our city for a most exciting 16-day Olympiad.
These people put together pieces in the tape room. Some worked long, long hours. Graphics, all the visual things you've seen over the event. Assistants to the producer now. We used to call them PAs. They're the young people, many of them with their first job in network television, and many of them on their way up. Bryce Wiseman with all the up-close and personals. Aaron Smith came over from News to be on this show. If you wonder what it takes to put on one of these, just realize that every one of those names you see go by didn't have a little thing to do. They all had a lot to do, long hours every day. Maria Pagano did a marvelous job when she suddenly pulled up for us the other night, The Imposter in Munich, and Jim Ryan falling down. That's where that came from. Ah, our research staff. They were tough. They were good. Nancy and Jackie and Regina. They held us all together. Julie Barnathan, leader of the engineering miracle that again has been worked here. The biggest ever, by far. The athletes did here, I think, considered themselves at home by the time the 16 days of competition were over.
would you please leave the stage, please? It is very dangerous for that many people to be on the stage. Would you please exit the stage? Thank you. Please, would everyone leave the stage? Choir, please leave the stage. Would the choir please leave the stage?
Hey, look me over, lend me.
Music stops in the stadium.
Please do not go on the stage.
People were getting up on the stage where it was dangerous. I think that's why they stopped the music. Thanks for the lighting, gentlemen. It helped. Dick Rose rose to new heights this time, I think. The mighty console of audio, along with his colleagues.
Would the choir please exit the stage? Choir, please off the stage. Once again, good night, thank you, and have a wonderful trip home.
We will be back tomorrow night, remember, with our final look, our final memory book, you might call it, of the games of Los Angeles at 10 o'clock Eastern and Pacific time. So a lot of these people can't relax yet. We have one more show to go, guys. I do believe there are more. Look at that. Behind us, being bounced on the flag of Australia. Still having fun in LA. They don't want to go home. Even though the music has stopped, they've been asked to leave the stage. It says, "Hi, Mom, I'm there," behind the names this time. There you are. Names there are in all. They've all been here, as I said. They all work. There's a lot for them to do. get on the tube. They're entitled. Behind there. Flag being waved behind there. They had their moments too at the Olympics. Thank you, makeup. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mirage programmer? I'll have to meet him. I don't know what that is. Thought everything was real. So these were the people, some of the organizations that made the Olympics of Los Angeles from our point of view. From Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, speaking also for Peter Jennings, this is Jim McKay saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow night.
The games of the 23rd Olympiad have been brought to you by Chevrolet, with the performance, the style, the innovation, the quality, and the value that make up today's Chevrolet. Lotus, makers of 1, 2, 3 and Symphony software. And General Electric. At GE, we bring good things to life. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines, the official airline of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Games and proud sponsor of the United States Olympic team. In 1988, Calgary, the Olympic tradition continued.